Hello and welcome to Prepspot. In this video, we are going to know about a major development in global trade and economics that is reshaping the contours of the US-China trade dynamics and presenting new opportunities and challenges for India's manufacturing landscape. On 9 April 2025, President Donald Trump announced a dramatic escalation in trade policy by imposing a 125% duty on Chinese imports, a significant increase from the previous 104% rate, while at the same time pausing higher tariffs on most other countries for a period of 90 days, settling them at a 10% rate. This policy move represents more than just a numerical adjustment on the tariff grid. It is a signal of the persistent, America First agenda and an intensification of the US-China trade war that has been brewing since the previous presidential term. The announcement immediately rippled through the international economic landscape, compelling Chinese electronics component manufacturers, who have traditionally supplied around 75% of India's electronics parts import market, valued at approximately $34.4 billion in fiscal year 2024, to scramble for alternative approaches in mitigating the repercussions of declining demand from the US market. In a strategic pivot aimed at offloading excess inventory and maintaining cash flow, these manufacturers have begun offering discounts as steep as 5% to Indian companies during the upcoming May to June sourcing negotiations. This adjustment not only allows Chinese firms to attempt salvaging a fragile profit margin, typically hovering between 4% and 7%, but it also opens a temporary window of opportunity for Indian companies to benefit from cost savings, which could translate into an improvement in their competitive positioning and operational margins. The decision to impose a 125% tariff, essentially adding $1.25 for every dollar spent on Chinese goods in the American market and bringing the total cost to $2.25, is a clear manifestation of the Trump administration's commitment to using tariff policy as a lever to protect domestic industries and push back against what it perceives as unfair trade practices. This policy not only hammers at the heart of Chinese export competitiveness, but also puts immense pressure on the delicate balance of global supply chains. For decades, the US-China trade relationship has been characterized by a tit-for-tat escalation where tariffs and counter-tariffs served as instruments in a larger strategy aimed at reducing the US trade deficit and safeguarding American jobs. However, as trade relations evolved, China learned to diversify its markets by engaging actively with other economies and platforms to steady its business. Today, with the new tariff regimen in place, Chinese electronics suppliers have found themselves in a precarious situation where they must rapidly recalibrate their supply and pricing strategies to sustain business viability. Consequently, the offer of up to a 5% discount to Indian buyers during the crucial renegotiation phase of sourcing contracts is not merely a short-term adjustment but an indicator of broader shifts in global trade flows, highlighting both vulnerabilities in overdependence on any single market and the emerging complexities of a globalized economy grappling with divergent national interests. In dissecting this issue further, it is important to establish some key definitions and terminologies to fully appreciate the nuances of the situation. A tariff, in essence, is a tax levied on imported goods designed either to protect domestic industries or to influence international trade balances. In this case, the tariff is not merely an economic tool but a strategic maneuver designed to counteract what the US administration deems as trade imbalances created by China's export practices. The term reciprocal tariff comes into play when one country imposes tariffs that match or exceed those levied by another, in this instance, serving as a response to Chinese retaliatory measures, including the imposition of 84% tariffs on US goods as reported by various financial news outlets. Similarly, sourcing contracts, which are the agreements set up by companies to procure essential goods and components, have become the battleground where these discounts are being negotiated. Indian companies, having relied significantly on Chinese manufacturers for their critical electronics components, are now in a position to leverage these discount offers. With approximately three-quarters of their electronic parts coming from China, Indian firms face the dual challenge of balancing cost savings with long-term strategic goals, including the growing need to bolster domestic production capabilities as part of initiatives such as Make in India. From a historical perspective, the roots of the current tension can be traced back to a period of rapid tariff escalation during Trump's first term from 2017 to 2021, when tariffs as high as 25% triggered an initial trade war between the United States and China. That initial phase laid the groundwork for many of the entrenched policies and retaliatory measures that we are witnessing today. The escalation to a 125% duty now is not an isolated event but the culmination of years of strategic posturing aimed at reducing reliance on foreign, particularly Chinese, imports while simultaneously seeking to correct long-standing trade imbalances. The decision to freeze higher tariffs for other nations at a 10% rate for 90 days indicates a selective application of policy instruments aimed at targeting China directly, thereby minimizing broader disruptions to the global trade network. This selective imposition is a calculated move that underscores the complexity of modern international trade where geopolitical interests, economic imperatives, and the realities of global supply chains intersect. In this intricate scenario, each stakeholder, from multinational corporations to individual manufacturers, must weigh immediate financial incentives against long-term strategic considerations. Delving into the figures involved, it is noteworthy that the tariff hike has a direct financial impact on the cost structure of Chinese goods entering the United States. By pushing the tariff to 125%, the effective cost to importers increases significantly, a move that some analysts suggest could lead to the passing on of these additional costs to consumers or force manufacturers to seek alternative markets and cost-saving measures. For Chinese companies already operating at narrow profit margins between 4% and 7%, a 5% discount may appear modest at first glance. However, in an industry marked by fierce competition and minimal room for error, even small adjustments can be the difference between maintaining liquidity and suffering substantial losses. The discount, therefore, represents more than just a temporary financial incentive. It is a tactical response to a swiftly changing market environment, one that reflects a broader strategy to safeguard competitive viability amid a rapidly evolving global economic framework. Considering the broader global economic implications, this tariff announcement, along with the subsequent reactions from Chinese manufacturers, is already making waves in international markets and policy circles. For India, the news offers a dual-edged promise. On the one hand, Indian manufacturers could potentially gain a competitive edge by capitalizing on the discounted pricing of key electronics components, leading to immediate cost savings of around 2% to 3% on production. On the other hand, this discount is deeply intertwined with the structural vulnerability stemming from India's heavy reliance on Chinese imports, a dependency that has grown significantly in recent years. With a growth in imports of nearly 118.2% from FY19's $15.8 billion figure to $34.4 billion in FY24, this reliance underscores a critical need for long-term strategies aimed at nurturing domestic production and reducing overdependence on foreign suppliers. Indeed, while the immediate benefit in terms of cost savings is welcome, industry experts also caution that any sustained benefit from these discounts would necessitate a re-evaluation of India's supply chain strategies to ensure that sudden shifts in international trade policies do not derail production continuity or inflate price volatility in the long run. For Indian companies, the timing of these discounts is particularly significant, as they coincide with the May to June 2025 sourcing negotiation cycle, a period when Indian firms are actively renegotiating their procurement contracts with Chinese suppliers. During these negotiations, Indian companies are afforded an unprecedented opportunity to secure better terms and benefit from the emergency pricing measures that Chinese manufacturers have had to adopt amidst the US tariff surge. Industry voices such as Kamal Nandi from Godrej Enterprises and Avneet Singh Marwa from Super Plastronics have noted that while these discounts provide some relief, they are also a reflection of the underlying instability and the high-risk environment generated by intensified trade friction. In similar fashion, experts like Atul Lal from Dixon Technologies have acknowledged that the immediate price drops, though beneficial, should be seen as a short-term tactical shift rather than a long-term solution to the structural challenges facing the global electronics supply chain. Tarun Pathak from Counterpoint Research has further underscored that such developments could ultimately accelerate efforts toward localization and self-reliance, particularly as countries like India increasingly recognize the strategic vulnerabilities inherent in overdependence on any single overseas supplier. Additionally, it is important to consider the broader implications of these events in the context of globalization versus localization debates. The drastic measure of imposing a 125% tariff serves as a stark reminder that global supply chains, while efficient under stable conditions, are highly susceptible to policy shocks and geopolitical tensions. In a way, the current scenario reinforces the argument that high tariffs, while designed to protect domestic industries, can also force multinational companies to re-examine their reliance on globalized supply chains and pivot toward more localized or diversified production models. For China, the financial strain imposed by shrinking profit margins coupled with the need to clear excess inventory is pushing firms to explore alternative markets such as India, thereby partly mitigating the loss of US business while concurrently opening up new avenues for growth and revenue generation. For India, this situation, though beneficial in the immediate term through cost reductions and improved supply chain stability, should serve as an impetus to invest more deeply in strengthening domestic production capabilities so that the benefits of reduced costs are not overshadowed by the long-term risks associated with high dependency on imports. It is also essential to analyze the technical economic mechanics behind this development. The 125% tariff directly translates into a considerable cost increase for every dollar of Chinese goods imported into the United States. This sharp cost hike forces Chinese manufacturers to make tough decisions regarding pricing, inventory management, and market diversification strategies. In a market where profit margins are already squeezed, even a slight reduction in revenue due to a 5% discount can trigger financial vulnerabilities, especially when faced with the need to rapidly alter operational strategies. The financial calculus behind offering a discount, in this case, is driven by the need to maintain business continuity amidst the fallout from reduced US demand, a situation that compels manufacturers to shift their focus to other prominent markets like India, where the price sensitivity may be more forgiving and the potential for long-term business relationships is robust. This strategic recalibration underscores a broader economic lesson that in times of significant market disruptions, flexibility in pricing and supply chain management becomes paramount for sustaining viability in a competitive global market. Looking ahead, it is clear that this development holds implications that extend far beyond the immediate tactical adjustments made by Chinese manufacturers and Indian importers. For the US, the decision to implement such a steep tariff is not only a reflection of the administration's domestic economic policy objectives but also an acknowledgement of the complex interdependencies that govern international trade today. While the policy is designed to protect US industries and reduce the trade deficit, it simultaneously sends ripples through global markets, disrupting established supply chains and prompting firms across multiple nations to reassess their long-term strategies. For China, the immediate consequence has been a forced diversification away from the US market, coupled with the necessity to aggressively seek new revenue streams by offering financial incentives to markets like India. For India, while the short-term benefits of reduced costs are tangible, the challenge remains to balance these benefits against the broader strategic necessity of cultivating a more self-reliant manufacturing base, a goal that, if achieved, could ultimately reduce the risks associated with global trade volatility. As we examine the evolution of this trade saga, it becomes evident that the interplay between economic policy, market dynamics, and international strategic interests is both delicate and dynamic. Trade wars are rarely isolated events. They are part of a longer cycle of policy adjustments, market responses, and geopolitical negotiations that have far-reaching consequences for both exporting and importing nations alike. The current episode, marked by Trump's decision to spike the tariff to 125% and the consequential discount strategy adopted by Chinese manufacturers, serves as a stark illustration of how government policies can have cascading effects across the global economic landscape. It highlights the importance for industry leaders to stay informed, agile, and prepared to negotiate in an environment where yesterday's strategies can quickly become obsolete in the face of rapid policy changes and market disruptions. In summary, the unfolding scenario with President Trump's tariff hike, combined with the resulting panic among Chinese electronics component manufacturers who are now offering a 5% discount to Indian companies, is a multifaceted development that merits close attention from policymakers, industry leaders, and investors alike. The story is a vivid reminder that the forces of globalization and localization are in constant tension, and that the economic fortunes of nations and companies alike are deeply intertwined with international policy decisions. As we continue to monitor these events, it is clear that while Indian manufacturers may enjoy short-term cost advantages, the situation also underscores the inherent risks associated with a heavy reliance on imported components. The discount strategy, timely as it is during the May to June sourcing negotiations, should be seen as both an opportunity for immediate gains and a wake-up call for long-term supply chain and economic planning. Answer this question in comments. The correct answer will be given hot and pinned. Lastly, we just want to let you know that we are a newly emerging online platform for competitive exams. Creating educational explainer videos like these requires a lot of effort, money, and time. If you like these videos and want us to excel and create videos in all categories of competitive exams, then you can consider supporting us with a one-time donation through the Ko-fi platform and also by becoming a member through Patreon. This will help us create more such informative educational videos in the competitive exams space. So, one last time, subscribe and share this channel with all your friends who are preparing for competitive exams. And also, follow us on social media platforms. The links are given in the About section of the channel and also in the video description. So, see you in the next video.